You wake up at 2 a.m. The room is dark, your mind is quiet, not anxious, not panicked, just awake, calm almost, unusually clear. And then comes the spiral. You check the clock, you do the math. 5 hours left if you fall asleep right now. You stare at the ceiling, you open your phone, and by the time your alarm goes off, you feel like you've spent the night losing a fight with your own brain. Here's what nobody told you. That 2 a.m. waking, that strange quiet alertness in the middle of the night, that is not insomnia, that is not a malfunction, that is your 300,000-year-old nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do, and the only reason it feels like a disorder is because the modern world was specifically designed with no room for what it's trying to give you. Because for the vast majority of human history, people did not sleep the way you do, not even close. For a long time, researchers and historians assumed the 8-hour continuous sleep block was the natural human default, the factory setting, the thing all humans did before screens and artificial light came along and ruined it. The advice was always the same: 8 hours, uninterrupted, consistent schedule, and if you couldn't manage that, something was wrong with you. Then a historian named Roger Ekirch spent 16 years doing something nobody had thought to do before. He went through pre-industrial historical records systematically: court documents, personal diaries, medieval medical texts, literary references, prayer books, sources spanning multiple centuries and multiple countries, and buried across hundreds of these documents, hiding in plain sight, he found something that fundamentally changed how we understand human sleep. People didn't sleep in one block, they slept in two. The pattern had a name: segmented sleep. And it was so normal, so completely unremarkable to the people actually living it, that they barely bothered explaining it. They just referenced it, constantly. They called them first sleep and second sleep as casually as you'd refer to breakfast and lunch. Because it was that obvious, everyone knew what those words meant because everyone did it. A character in a 15th century Canterbury tale references waking from his first sleep. A 16th century French medical text gives specific health advice for what to do between first and second sleep. These writers weren't explaining a concept, they were using common vocabulary. Here's how it worked. Shortly after dark, roughly 1 to 2 hours after sunset, you'd fall into your first sleep, 3 to 4 hours of deep rest. Then you'd wake up naturally, no alarm, no anxiety, just a quiet, calm alertness in the middle of the night. This window, typically lasting 1 to 2 hours, had a specific name in historical texts. It was called the watch, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting. The watch wasn't wasted time. It wasn't an inconvenience people endured until they could fall back asleep. It was the most psychologically productive period of the entire night. Medieval physicians actually recommended it as the ideal time for serious intellectual reflection. Scholars wrote during the watch. Clergy prayed, couples talked, people processed the events of the day, thought through problems, planned for tomorrow. Some would get up briefly to check on a fire or attend to animals. Then they'd return to bed for their second sleep, another 3 to 4 hours, and wake naturally with the light. This was not insomnia. This was a built-in feature of human consciousness that entire civilizations had quietly structured their nights around for thousands of years. Then the Industrial Revolution happened and erased it in roughly one generation. Here's the mechanism. Artificial lighting, first gas lamps in the early 1800s, then widespread electric light by the early 1900s pushed the evening dramatically later. For the first time in human history, darkness was no longer the signal to wind down. People stayed up later, and when factories began demanding fixed start times regardless of sunrise or natural sleep cycles, the total window available for sleep compressed sharply. The two-segment pattern that humanity had practiced across hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary history simply had nowhere left to fit. Within a few generations, people had completely forgotten it ever existed. The words first sleep and second sleep disappeared from common language entirely, and the natural midnight waking that had once been a peaceful, valued part of human experience was reclassified. It became a symptom. It got a diagnosis, it needed treatment. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Sleep disorder diagnoses began rising sharply in the late 19th century, almost immediately following industrialization. References to insomnia as a clinical complaint are essentially absent from medical literature before this period. After it, they multiply rapidly. Today, roughly 70 million Americans report a chronic sleep disorder. Sleeping pill prescriptions in the United States exceed 50 million per year. We have built an entire medical and pharmaceutical infrastructure around solving a problem that we created by dismantling something that was working. And here's the evidence that makes this undeniable. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment. He recruited a group of healthy adults with no history of sleep problems and removed artificial light from their evenings for several weeks. No overhead lights, no screens, no electric light after dark, just candles. Within a few weeks, without being instructed to, without being told anything about historical sleep patterns, nearly every participant spontaneously shifted into a two-segment sleep pattern. They woke naturally in the middle of the night. They lay in quiet, calm wakefulness for an hour or so. Then they returned to sleep. Nobody taught them this. Nobody suggested it. It just happened. Because the pattern was there the whole time, encoded somewhere beneath the surface, waiting for the artificial pressure, keeping it suppressed to be removed for long enough that it could return. So the next time you wake up at 2 a.m. and your mind is unusually still and clear, before you reach for your phone and spiral into calculations about how many hours you have left, consider the possibility that your ancient nervous system is not broken. It is offering you something, a window your ancestors built their entire nights around. An hour of stillness that civilizations across human history recognized as one of the most valuable and distinct parts of the day. We decided it didn't fit the factory schedule, and we replaced it with a sleeping pill and a diagnosis. That's not progress, that's just forgetting.